Hey gamers, it's me, DXuser5. Originally, I was gonna return in March, but long story short, stuff happened and it was not fun. But now that school's been over for over a month as I'm writing this, I thought, why not I actually try to do something? And not just any something, no. I'm gonna do something I'm actually passionate about, instead of making some half-baked memes and reactions. So why not go and talk about a game that's just as irrelevant as me? What do you mean it's peak again? What? So why not go and talk about a game that's not quite as irrelevant as me? Piggy. I really like Piggy. Sure, it's definitely flawed, and I haven't always liked the game, but over time, I realized that this game is just really fun. Sure, I might not like some aspects about the game, but I don't like certain aspects about a lot of media I like. And overall, just because it has some obvious flaws doesn't mean it's a bad game. There are some pretty valid criticisms, don't get me wrong. In particular, I could not care less about the game's story, especially in Book 1. But thankfully, Book 1 can still be pretty enjoyable due to its maps. Kinda. Some of these maps absolutely suck, while others are straight up some of the reasons why I have kept playing the game for years. So today, I'm breaking every map in Book 1! Except for Distorted Memory because I just don't feel like completing it. Plus, how can I play this? There's no badge for it! Sorry, Distorted Memory, I just could not care less for House 1.5. Also, before we start, I want to stress that this is all my opinion. I have some of the hottest takes imaginable, and I will without a doubt make at least one person angry who watches this video. Please be civil. This is the dang Peppa Pig zombie apocalypse game. It's not that deep. Now with that said, let's dive right into it. SIIIKE! Hey, it's Editing DXuser5 here. I realized that I actually forgot to go and say something that was pretty important. This type of video style is not original whatsoever. Like, really not original whatsoever, actually. It's very inspired by SIIIKE Productions, and he's the main inspiration for this video coming out, as well as Parrot BT, who made a video similar to this like a couple years ago, which, you know, is pretty good. But yeah, shout out to those two, because I wouldn't have really gotten this idea without them. So yeah, thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.
Yes! I hate you.
Man, I sure wonder what map is gonna get last place. Surely it won't be Carnival, right? That is correct! Congratulations! Carnival is not last place. The day is saved, thanks to the fact that I realized that there are so many other maps I enjoy less than the map that gets chosen 50% of the time due to how easy it is. And out of the surprising amount of maps that I think are worse than Carnival, the one I have to go with is Forest. Now, what makes Forest worse than Carnival and every other map in the game? Simply put, it is a map with zero redeeming qualities. When I was getting footage for this video, the game got updated in the middle of my first game on Forest, and when I came back, the vent collisions for every single map got fixed, meaning that you had to actually crouch in order to get into the vents rather than just walk into them. And out of all maps to get this change, I feel like that the one that actively got worse because of it was Forest. Even without this change, this map would still be bad. The map is dark and big, making it easy for you to go in circles and miss parts of the map you're trying to get to multiple times. The Watchtower is quite possibly the worst location to be in the entire game, because if Piggy comes up there, you are screwed. You are not able to do anything because of how cramped the room is at the top, and how easy it is to go and fall off while you're going down. That's not to mention that there are multiple locations you need keys for that you may or may not need in order to complete the map. So, you're more likely to go and waste time in a map that's already pretty easy to go and get lost in. And the cherry on top of everything is that it has some classic bad Book 1 cutscenes. Like, brother, how are we supposed to know or be invested in the fact that they were our friends if we're only 4 chapters in and we only know of 3 other characters, 2 of which not even being proper characters yet, and only one of them is infected? Huh? I normally would not care about the story in these chapters, but like, seriously, what's the thought process with writing this dialogue amenity? I could go on about so many things in this chapter that I don't like to the point where I've decided to end the discussion here, put it in F tier, and move on. There's no point crying over the fact that this map is bad, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Moving on. Now we got the D tier, which still has some bad maps, but they aren't on the level of Forest, but that's really the only distinction, unfortunately.
Tuesday midnight at the Mallory Gallery. That's all I know.
Gallery is not a good map. This map at least gets some of the criticism it deserves, but I don't really think some people get it. For starters, for a gallery, everything blends in way too much. There's 3 hallways that look basically the same in 3 different locations for some reason. You use a plank to get to a completely isolated part of the map, and most of the time that said part doesn't have anything useful. Why is there a random garage? Why is there an egg pedestal that unlocks the white key? Like, seriously, this map doesn't feel like a gallery. It feels like a build map that decided to have some random paintings and vaguely gallery-esque decorations. If anything, it would be better classified as a Mario Party map. This map is also extremely small and tight, either making it very easy in multiplayer or straight up hard if you're doing this solo with just a bot, as it always knows where you are and will be chasing you down since it's using the Book 1 AI. Not even hard in a good way, because a lot of the places look the same, so you end up accidentally going in circles without even realizing it, making the map even less fun. Like, do some people genuinely think that this map is good or at least better than Carnival? Because Carnival, in my eyes, is leagues better. This map does not make any sense, and I do not like it, and I have nothing else to say.
Unless it is a school in which children are not allowed to leave and always die.
School sure is a map, and it's not even an okay one. There's not really any new items here except for a literal book. The gear is also returned, but I really just couldn't care less. Why is there a very random accessible basement here in a school? Why is there a random laser gate to a gym? Like, sure, this might be very nitpicky, but like, seriously, what's up with this map? The map is also pretty big with some very similar looking classrooms. How fun. This map is just another case of Minitoon making a map just cause he could. The only cool part about this map is that there's a locker you can open with key. There's only one locker like this because reasons. I don't know, dude. This map just kinda sucks. It offers nothing and I feel nothing towards it. Moving on. Now we're on to the C tier maps. These are maps that I would actually somewhat like playing. Yippee.
Oh, I can be the cook, the cashier, or the house.
Man, it's crazy how much the early half of Book 1 ranges from mid to bad. And surprisingly, house is not even the worst example of this. Sure, it may just be a house, but I mean, the layout has some good aspects. They don't really make sense, but I like some of them. Oh, that's a vent that people can easily camp in. Oh, that's a random well in a backyard, and also a fall with a very janky hitbox. Man, this sure is the first map in the game, alright. Not the worst thing ever, though. I especially like this vent on the 3rd floor because it's fun to fall down. Same height as the fall that kills you, and doesn't do the same because reasons. You could also easily trap people by placing a trap at where you get sent to after the fall. What do you know? It's some replayability. Incredible stuff. Sadly, that's the only thing keeping it out of D tier, if I'm being honest. This map is kinda mid, but it's somewhat enjoyable. The laser gate on the 3rd floor still confuses me, though.
I love you, Metro Man.
And I love you, random citizen.
Metro is without a doubt a map. Like, seriously, this is the plain bread of Piggy maps. Kinda cool escapes, some alright decorations, really iconic bot. Like, seriously, this is probably the best bot in any of the maps. In the Chinese Piggy version, Piggy gets turned into regular Piggy due to restrictions. That's probably the most interesting part of the map due to a tiny problem. It all looks the exact same. Like, seriously, there's the train area, the basement, and the rest pretty much shouldn't exist, because I wouldn't have remembered the other aspects of the map if I didn't play it for this video. I legit forget where the yellow safe is supposed to be, because the entire map looks the exact same, except for the basement area. But I don't really get why it's here anyways. Did MiniToon just realize that this was the most boring map in the game, and add the basement just to make it less boring? Like, seriously, I feel like that was the thought process. Also, this map was released 6 days after Hospital. It was made in less than a week, and you can kind of tell, because this map doesn't really feel right. Still insanely impressive though. The fact that this map was made in a week and made it to C tier is pretty dang impressive in itself. And I definitely consider it better than House, but not on the level of the maps in the B tier, because now we're out of the C tier and moving up to the B tier. These maps are honestly pretty good. I like these maps, and I don't really mind playing on them, in a vacuum at least. You'll see why I say in a vacuum later.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance!
Hospital is a pretty good map with a similar problem to Metro. Everything looks the exact same. But again. However, I feel like what really carries this map is the level of detail in some rooms to make them stand out. And the layout. This honestly has one of the best layouts in Book 1. Sure, it's pretty hard and small, but there's the right amount of spots to get away from Piggy, but there's also the right amount of spots to get caught. It's neat. It's genuine replayability that goes beyond, haha, fun event, which granted, this does have, but also has some pretty tricky places you're forced to go to in order to complete the map. Really, the only issue I have with the map is that it does look a bit basic. Like, yeah, it's a hospital, and it gets that point across pretty well, but it also has the symptom of being simplified in places I would have wanted to be a bit more detailed. Still a good map, but I just wish that there was more detail than there already is, and maybe have some areas be a bit more distinct too.
Oh, brother, this guy...
Man, I am going to get so much hate for this, but I think Carnival is pretty good.
You what?
Yes, better than a hospital. Let's get the obvious out of the way. The layout is way too easy and unbalanced. I can agree on this. If this map had a more difficult but fair layout, it would be much higher. And yes, this is the most picked map in the game due to it being really easy. I acknowledge that these issues exist, and they are 100% valid. So why is this map so high up? Simple. It's one of the best looking maps in the game. Easily in my top 3 for visuals. Every area is visually distinct. We got the roller coaster, the target practice, the big tent, cages, and more visually distinct locations. Like it actually feels like a carnival rather than just being a random layout with some basic theming slapped on it. Sure, it's big and open, but that's literally how carnivals are. That's how a lot of amusement parks are. So the layout actually works pretty well with the map. But with that said, this map is still stupidly easy and can easily lead to some excess amount of camping. There's also the other issue I decided that I wouldn't really let affect my ranking, and that is the fact that this map is chosen constantly in public servers. However, I decided that I wouldn't let that aspect cloud my judgment on how I actually feel about this map, which is why in the beginning of the B tier section, I said I wouldn't mind playing on them in a vacuum. This one map is why I had to add that, because there are definitely maps below it I would play in public servers if it was between this map and Metro or the hospital, since this map is chosen insanely often. Man, this map is insanely lopsided, but I feel like that the good just barely weighs out the bad. So into B tier you go, Carnival. You're a pretty good map, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
They're eating the policeman doggy.
Congrats, Station! You're the best map out of the first half of Book 1. You're very epic. Even though most of that first half isn't very good. Well, whatever. You earned it regardless. While the next maps on the list people have sang their praises about, this map doesn't really have much fanfare, but I feel like it should have way more love and attention. Like, look at this cool sewer part. It wasn't needed, but it's just fun, and that's all it needs to be. And look, we're escaping through a car this time instead of a door. That's really cool. There are some parts of the map that aren't necessary to unlock, which in turn just waste your time and bring the map down a bit. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's just got a pretty nice layout and some other cool stuff like the battery thing. I don't know what it's called, so I'm just calling it the battery thing. It's just a legitimately well-designed map, with some cool stuff in there to make it stand out. The only reason it isn't higher is because there's better maps. That doesn't make this map any less good. Now we're on to the A tier. These are some real banger maps that I feel as if are really good and fun in any context.
Fire in the fire!
Outpost is honestly a really good map. It's got a custom exit that looks really cool. It has a literal tank. I mean, I don't know how this was necessary, but come on, it's a tank. And the tank shoots a bullet to open a door. Like, seriously, this is really cool. The tank is epic.
Hey, wait a minute.
But don't worry, the tank isn't the only thing I like about this map. Like, look at all these cool soldier pigs that rise out of the ground. This is also epic. The layout is also pretty decent. It's like if Hospital's layout was more open, and while it does make the map easier, it's still plenty of fun to play on. If there was something I had to criticize, is that they could have done a better job visually. Like, yeah, I know that there's an awesome tank and a cool exit, but that's really all the talking points on the visuals. It's still really good though. Definitely deserves to be an A tier for the tank and soldier pigs alone.
This is the most divorced a man has ever been.
Plant is the culmination of all of the maps in Book 1. And honestly, it does a really good job at that. It's a map that serves its role well as a conclusion to the first half of the game. There's just one problem. The layout for the first half of the map is just okay. I like the concept of it well enough. Complete 2 mini-maps in order to get to the next part. That's a somewhat thematic way to end Book 1. I like it. My problem comes from the fact that these mini-maps definitely have some weirdness to them. I think the orange side works well enough, but it's definitely a bit too open for my liking. Not bad by any means, but just nothing special. And meanwhile, on the green side, it is way too overtuned to be difficult. If you're doing this solo, good luck, because unless you use Georgie, you have no breathing room whatsoever. Having 2 bots in this tiny square makes this section genuinely super difficult, and I'd be lying if I didn't think it was a tad bit unfair. And really, the green side is the only thing holding it back from S tier. Anyways, as for the second layout that unlocks after you commit some war crimes, is really good. Sure, it uses the maps from 2 Piggy maps I don't really like, one from a map that's just okay, and one from an actually good map, but it uses all the best aspects of these maps. The cool vending machine from Metro is back. I forgot to mention it before because, come on, it's Metro, it's a forgettable map. But still, I really like the vending machine. Really, the only part lacking that much intrigue is the school section, but it makes up for it by having a white key safe. The first, and I think last of its kind? So yeah, makes this a pretty cool part as well. Not to mention the carnival and, forest parts of the map bring some much needed difficulty to this section, being essentially just dead ends with little wiggle room. I like that. Like, really, I can't stress this enough. The only reason this map isn't S tier is because of the green section. If that wasn't there at all, this would be an S tier. I feel like that the map is just that strong. With that said, we're on to the S tier. This tier contains 2 maps that I love replaying over and over again. While these maps are similar in quality, my number 1 map is going to be my favorite. I don't actually really know if I objectively think it's better or worse than the map in my number 2 spot, but this map has been my favorite for a long time now. And while I acknowledge that the map in the next section is amazing, I still don't personally like it as my number 1 pick. With that said,
the 2005 Robots movie is an underrated woke masterpiece.
I would not blame you for putting any of these maps at number 1. Except Forest. But I would especially not blame you for putting Mall at number 1. If I'd have to guess off the top of my head what map from Book 1 Minitude thinks is his favorite, I'd say Mall. Like seriously, it's kinda insane how much attention he gave and still gives to this map. Before Piggy had a collab with Jailbreak, this vault was closed, but when the collab happened, he decided to open up the vault and make a little obby, and to this day, that vault is still open, and even a cool robot got put in the vault. Like, come on, this is so cool! There's also other stuff I like about this map, like the fact that it's actually a mall. There's different stores and a ton of small details that I really like. This map inexplicably uses a crowbar instead of a hammer, and honestly, good choice. It's crazy how much this dang hammer is used, so for this to be one of the few maps in the entire game to not have it anywhere is kinda special. If there's any complaint I could go and give about this map, it's the long ven. This time Minitude actually tried to make sure you couldn't just camp in it by adding a piggy in it, but people still found a way, and for a while this map was plagued by the fact you could just camp in the vents with no repercussions. I don't know if the bug fix update that happened in the middle of me recording the footage for this video fixed anything, but it's really the only thing holding it back from being in first place. Besides personal biases, of course. Speaking of which... City is genuinely my favorite map in the game. From the maps I've actually beaten, at least. Sure, it's hard, but it's an incredibly fair map. There's no obscene nonsense like in other maps I can mention. Genuinely, I feel as if this map just really works. The layout was pretty good, and while there's a lot of spots you can get cornered, as long as you know what you're doing, you're able to get out of those situations. I feel as if this map, above all others, rewards genuine skill. The map also looks pretty good. Not anything crazy with the visuals, but it definitely looks nicer than some other maps. And both buildings have distinct visuals that make them stand out. The only glaring issue with this map is that it's not the most clear for where you're supposed to put the dynamite. If they just added something to make it more obvious, then I feel like this map would be perfect. And even then, this aspect doesn't really affect me specifically, as I've played this map so many times that I completed it in under 6 minutes on the first try for this video. Again, it's no big deal. It's still my favorite map in Book 1, and definitely the entire game as a whole. But it definitely could have been clearer on where you're supposed to put it. And it's really the only thing about this map's design I have problems with. And I'm pretty sure it's the first map I ever played in this game, which while it doesn't really affect my ranking too much, it still has a special place in my heart for that reason, as well as the fact that this map is very well designed and epic. Well, that's the ranking. Yeah, so this video took a long time to edit, so forgive me if this ending part isn't too heavily edited, with not like a million PNGs on the screen. Sorry, but yeah, this video took a long time, way longer than I was ever expecting, really, and yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, because on the one hand, it was, you know, it was fun to go and, like, make, and I'm proud of myself for, like, doing this, but on the other hand, like, that was, like, 4 months of my life, and so, I don't know. I'm probably gonna go and do more stuff like this, and, yeah, if you made it this far, I would really appreciate if you, just supported the video in any way, whether it be liking, subscribing, really, you just, like, get it, like, watching till the end already helps out so much, but I really want my time and effort to actually be worth it, because the last thing I'd want is for this to get like 2 views when I've spent more than double the amount of months on that. Yeah, I don't really have a specific goal in mind, just have it do slightly better than what I usually put out, and it'll probably make more, because, yeah. This was a lot, and I just want to go and say thank you to everyone who was, yeah, everyone watching. Yeah, let's go. But, yeah, thank you all for, just going kind of being there, and, yeah, it was very, very epic, but with that said, I am kind of just gonna, yeah. The YouTube outro is